Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray, your host. Today I have Dr. Jen Perez, based out in Denver, Colorado. She is a chiropractor, a professional foot nerd, and co-founder of Gait Happens. Jen, welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
So, first of all, what was it like getting into chiropractor and this whole foot? Because I'm assuming this kind of happened somehow, some way down in your life where you're like, I'm going to talk about foot for the rest of my life. What was it?
This is a great question because the foot found me. I didn't seek the foot.
Okay.
And so it kind of coincides with actually the origin story of Gait Happens. So the short version is when I was still in chiropractic school, I wanted to specialize in shoulders. Actually, I have a pretty significant injury history with my own shoulders. I was a softball player. I wanted to work with overhead athletes. And part of that was there was this new awesome thing out there called kinesiology tape. And I wanted to learn how to use it for shoulders. So I went to a course from Rock Tape to learn, and obviously they teach you the whole body, but I'm like, I want to learn about shoulders. Well, the instructor of this course would not stop talking about the feet. Every example she brought back to the feet. And at first I'm like, nobody cares about the foot. Nobody cares about the foot. And it's not exciting. Let's move on. But by the end of that 2-day weekend, my mind was blown. I was looking at, oh my goodness, there's so much to the foot. There's biomechanics and the gait cycle and how it's affecting everything above it. And nobody is talking about this. And it just blew my mind. And I've always loved the biomechanics side of things. And so I just wanted to learn more. Well, that was kind of that like aha moment of this is fascinating and I want to learn more. The person who was teaching that course was Dr. Courtney Conley, who is now my business partner at Gait Happens. So that's actually how we met. And it's kind of the Gait Happens origin story because she was teaching for Rock Tape. She had her own history with her feet and was learning more and more about it and started taking on this biomechanical approach and started posting about it online. And like I said, at the time, I mean, this was 8 years ago, nobody was talking about foot function from this perspective. And so her Instagram account started growing and growing, and more people kept saying, how do we find information like this? And that was when she said, this thing is getting too big. I need to bring somebody else on. And so her and I joined forces. And then we realized that the power wasn't in, I mean, we love seeing our patients one-on-one. Don't get me wrong. Like that is our why, is changing people's lives. But we can only see so many people. We only have so many hours in the day. And that's where it really leaned into education. Because if we create a course that thousands of people can see, that's thousands of lives that we've changed versus in that same 1 hour only being able to help one person. So to answer kind of multiple questions at the same time, that's how I got into the foot, how the foot found me, and how I found Dr. Conley.
Okay. That makes sense. And then where did so after the course, obviously, did you go and start looking to foot and oh, I gotta start changing my footwear, or where does that continue to go down that path?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started with following her on Instagram, kind of cyber stalking her a little bit. And actually, my mom was having foot issues at the time. And I was in the student clinic at my school, which you do at the end of your schoolwork. And I had taken my mom to go get an x-ray of her foot at the student clinic. And it turns out, this is another fun story, my mom has 6 toes. So she has five, it looks like 5 toes, but her pinky toe is actually like a double wide and it has 2 sets of bones inside. And so it's called polydactyly, the syndactyly for the nerds out there. But basically the doctors that we were working with at my school were like, oh, well, that's why you have foot pain. You have 6 toes and you're just going to have foot pain forever. And I'm sitting here going, well, she's in her 50s. She's clearly had this many toes forever. So why is she in pain now? What does she need to do about it? And so I actually had her book a consult with Courtney. And so that was really where I started to see the footwear is playing a huge role here. She has 6 toes and she's wearing shoes that are shaped like a triangle. We need to give her
Yeah.
space for her foot to be able to function. And then I started slowly changing my shoes. I slowly started incorporating toe spacers. I slowly started incorporating more foot exercises with my patients in the student clinic. And then from there, that was when I started working with Courtney when I graduated, and really starting to dive deeper as I'm starting my practice. I'm like, Courtney, can I shadow you anytime that I don't have a patient? So I was in the room taking notes for Courtney anytime I didn't have a patient, learning everything I could. And it paid off. I mean, it was a really amazing experience.
Okay, so circa what year was this that you, I guess, graduated college and
That,
then started working with Dr. Courtney?
that would have been 2018, beginning of
Oh
2018.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so you got started to work with her, and then is she the one who's like, and then of course the growth for her, and then you guys started Gait Happens, but the name of Gait Happens, why Gait Happens? Obviously gait because you're walking, but like stuff happens. Is that kind of where that came about, the name?
Yeah, that is where the name came from. Gait Happens was Courtney's
Okay.
idea. So I can't
Okay.
take credit for it, but it was, you know, one of the things that I will say when it comes to any medical diagnosis, but we see this a
Mhm.
lot at the because that's where we work, is so many people get hung up in their diagnoses or the things that are wrong with them, and we need to be able to look at things and say, it happens. It's okay. We can address it and kind of take some of that self identity out of it. Like, even if we find things that may not be the best right now, we can work on them. It happens.
Hmm.
It's okay. And so that's kind of the approach that we've always taken is not everybody is going to walk the same. First of all, we
Mhm.
don't want everyone walking around like robots. We all have our own beautiful movement story. And we just want to optimize your own movement and help make you as resilient as possible. But also, let's not take it too seriously. Let's not identify by it.
Yeah. I think that's definitely like, I guess from my perspective, when I first got into, let's say, like foot injuries growing up from playing sports, like I've always thought like, oh, I have weak ankles, like I'm not training properly. And so I've always been like wearing braces, and to the point today, like I'm like, wow, that's like 20 years of wearing braces and, really not strengthening those areas. So I think more and more people who are, let's say, getting into, injuries and whatnot, they have a lot of setbacks, and then they get down this downward spiral. So help me
Yeah.
to think too,
Well,
with the way that you guys are instructing or like even educating your clients, like what is that process like when they're meeting with you guys one on one?
yeah, it's a great question. So we look at everything from a whole person lens, and that makes things a little bit difficult. It also makes it a little daunting as a professional because if you're only looking at one thing, it's a lot easier to say this is one thing is the problem and we're going to address that one thing. But when you're looking at a whole person, there's a lot of different things that can go into it. So not even in the physical, there's the emotional, the stress. What does their sleep look like? What does their diet look like? Is that affecting their healing times? Because maybe they're not healing as quickly because they don't have the tissue quality, right? What about the what's happening globally biomechanically? So if I'm looking at someone who has chronic ankle insufficiency, so basically your ankle is unstable because you've had multiple ankle sprains, well, yes, I want to strengthen the ankle, assuming that we need to strengthen the peroneal muscles on the outside of the ankle there. But if this has been happening for 10 years, what's also happening at the hips? What's
Yeah.
happening at the thighs? What's happening at the hamstrings and the adductors and even into the pelvic floor and the big toe? We need to be looking at how the whole chain is affecting our area of pain and also how our area of pain is affecting the whole chain. Because the longer that something goes on, the better we are at avoiding it. Well, now maybe I'm avoiding my right ankle that's super unstable, but I'm ending up with left hip pain because I keep shifting my weight to the left to avoid my right ankle. So this is the kind of stuff that people come in with where maybe they came into me for the left hip and I have to figure out that the left hip hurts because we're avoiding putting weight on our right side. And that's where we start looking at, having those bigger conversations around the person and their pain and their stress and all of those things, but also biomechanically looking at the whole person and saying, okay, when I'm watching you walk, you're putting way more weight in this side than you are on this side. Let's figure out why.
Yeah. Talk about the whole, like, the gait part. So you guys have a thing where you actually have the person barefoot walking on a treadmill to see them from, different parts of whether if it's from the front, back, side. With running shoe stores, I'll talk about this with Steven Sasha, but like running shoe stores have their gait analysis total different from what you guys are looking at, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't work in a running store, and a lot of the running stores, it depends on what running store you go into, but yeah, they do
Yeah.
offer, many of them offer a gait assessment, where they're looking at some of the basic biomechanics. But what we're doing is a lot more in depth. So
Yeah.
we're looking joint by joint, what's happening at each stage of the gait cycle. So when the foot's hitting the ground, when the foot's underneath you at push off, and then we're looking foot, ankle, knee, hip, spine, kind of everything together and how it all works together. And again, not trying to make everyone move the same, just trying to understand how this person could be made a little bit more efficient, or how we can adjust loads so that maybe this area that's getting overloaded, we can shift the loads to other places and distribute it effectively.
Okay. And then with the whole Gait Happens, I guess the program, the educational videos and whatnot that you guys have available, who is it for? What is it made? I guess, what is it made for? Whether if it's a consumer person just wants to learn about the foot or gait, or is it more for health professionals? Or there's two different avenues?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Our mission from the beginning has always been to empower and educate the world to move better from the ground up. It's very simple, but it's a very big ask. We really want to change as many lives as possible. And so with that, and again, kind of our growth has always been like what people have asked for. So every time we come out with something new, it's because we've been asked for it. And so with that, we kind of have two sides of who the stuff is for, to answer your question. So we do have virtual consultations where we do one-on-one. We do have education programs for the end user who's like, I want to get stronger. I want to get more mobile. I am having pain. My feet get achy, that kind of stuff, where they want to improve their functional health. We have a Fit Feet program for that. So we do have things for the end user. We also know that there's a huge deficit when it comes to learning about lower extremity biomechanics in many different health professions. So in chiropractic, right, we got, I think, a few days of foot. It was very, very, very minimal. In physical
Wow.
therapy, they get a little bit more, but it's still not enough. And I know this because I teach many physical therapists, and I have heard this over and over again. So it depends on the profession. Even when it comes to the podiatry world, they don't get as much looking at the global system. They get a ton of foot education and foot biomechanics, but not how that ties into the rest of the chain. So there's kind of these pieces missing across professions. And so we also created programs for assessing and treating lower extremity and foot for the health pros. And we have kind of different courses there, whether you're looking for just like, what are some common things to look for? Or if you want to dive deep and learn how to do functional gait assessment. So looking at how a regular person moves. Because when we learned gait assessment in school, it was only pathological gait assessment. So people with Parkinson's and what to look for in more neurological cases. We never learned how to watch an average person walk and understand what we were seeing. Wasn't in our curriculum at all. So we wanted to change that. So we created courses for it.
Do you think it's still the same today? I mean, probably you have asked, like current college students who've gone through school for PT or chiro, like, are they still teaching the same thing that's not updated?
It's a great question. So my understanding, I'm not going to make a claim because I don't know for sure. Understanding is there's a little bit more, but still not enough. My brother actually just finished PT school last year, and I was super proud of him. And when he was going through the lower extremity section, he kept texting me like, my professor's saying this, is this right? My professor's saying this, is this right? And I was like, well, if he teaches you towel scrunches, just let me know because it's probably pretty dated.
Oh gosh. Okay, yeah. So talking about those type of things, because you see it on social media and with the availability of internet, learning like if people have plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendinopathy, those common things that people talk about, like heel pain. If you were, starting from ground zero with no knowledge of foot pain, what are some of the misconceptions that you see currently treating clients in person or virtually that people can start thinking differently? So like, what are some misconceptions that you see currently in today's world about foot health and foot injuries?
Oh, this is such a good question. Okay. There's two big ones that are coming to mind. Okay. Um, the first is we need to get rid of the myth that certain foot shapes are bad. So many people still believe that having a flat foot is bad. Having a high arch is also bad. So basically everybody's screwed, right? This is not real. This is not how the foot actually works. So we have had variations in arch height dating back all the way to Lucy, like going back to evolution, dating back to Australopithecus afarensis. We have had variations in arch height, and it still maintains today, which tells us that it wasn't something that needed to be evolved out of, right? Which is pretty cool when you think about it. Now, what I will say is that every foot needs to be able to function effectively. And in order to do that, it needs to be able to lower the arch, which is part of our entire cascade of shock absorption. Because when our foot hits the ground hits us. That's called ground reaction force, right? Going back to high school physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So ground reaction force, we need to be able to absorb that shock. So every foot, regardless of whether we're starting lower or starting higher, it needs to be able to spread and absorb. Okay. Every foot also needs to be able to stiffen or tighten in order to propel forward. So we need to be able to both pronate and supinate in order to push off. The way that I like to think about the foot is like a trampoline. If I'm standing on a trampoline and I try to jump up without going down first, I'm not going anywhere. I have to be able to go down in order to spring back up. That's literally the function of the foot, is to deform and recoil. So that's myth number one, is the Mythbusters edition of get rid of the flat feet and bad arch, and high arches are bad, because they're not.
Okay. And then how about like, what's another thing that you've seen? How about arch support, carbon fiber? I mean, with the amount of things that our shoes have nowadays, people are getting confused if they really need arch support or, custom orthotics or even carbon fiber plates, which supposedly that's a marketing scheme, but inform me, please.
So you're just on the right track, because I said there were two big ones and this was the second one. So you knew already where I was going, right? Okay, so let's talk about arch support specifically. We can talk about carbon fiber after if we want to talk about that, because it's slightly different, but let's talk about arch support. Arch support is designed to change the kinematics of the foot. So it's going to change where the load goes, right? Mm-hmm. This is great. This is why it was used to help with pain. Because if I have pain in a certain area, I can change the direction of my load and offload the area of pain. Makes sense, right? However, this should be used in 90% of cases as a temporary tool.
Temporary meaning a few weeks or a few days?
It depends. Typically a few weeks to a few months. And here's why. Because most of the time when we're getting to a point where arch support is needed, we also need to keep in mind, going back to that whole person, right? We know that walking is important for physical and mental health. right? We know that getting outside, being able to do the things we need to do, being able to go to the grocery store, if someone's in such severe pain that we need to use something to help them keep moving, let's use it, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's not demonize the arch support because it's there for a reason. However, and this is a big however, somewhere along the way, it started being used as a permanent solution. You need to use arch support for the rest of your life. People come in and I'm like, why do you have this orthotic? Well, I had plantar fasciitis 10 years ago. Do you still have plantar fasciitis? No. So why are we still using it? So this is where the conversation needs to change to, we're offloading something that's painful to keep you moving. We're also going to address the mobility, the strength, the whole chain, address the problem, and then get rid of the Band-Aid, right? I'm not just going to wear a back brace. If I have back pain, I'm not going to wear a back brace for the rest of my life. But if I'm in severe pain and I need a back brace in order to go through my day, I'm going to wear that back brace, but I'm going to do all the rehab that I need to do to get out of the back brace. And this is the conversation. The only caveat to this that I will say when it comes to the foot, the reason I say 90% of people and not 100% of people is there are people that do have structural anomalies. So things like clubfoot, things like forefoot varus, where their structure is physically different than the average person. And in some of these cases, those would be cases that I might need a long-term orthotic. And that's where, okay, great, let's get a custom orthotic. Let's make sure it's made exactly for their anatomy versus the average person where if we're looking for pain relief, we use it as a tool or we don't even use it at all because many times we can use other things instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. My story, a short story is that I got in college. I somehow, some reason, I went to a podiatrist, got me orthotics. I never used it for longer than, I don't know, a few weeks because it hurt my feet. I mean, it wasn't comfortable at all. And it's amazing to see how many people are in orthotic, whether if it's, custom made or even if you over the counter. It just really takes away a lot of that freedom of movement in the foot, and really, I think throws your whole body off because you're noticing that orthotic in there and how it's affecting your daily movement. So,
Yeah. Well, it also, I mean, talk about freedom of movement. It also not only restricts the freedom of movement for the foot itself, but for the human.
yeah,
So many of my patients are like afraid to go to the beach and go barefoot because they can't wear they're afraid to go without their orthotic. And that's honestly a testament to what long-term orthotic use will do. So there's actually research that talks about how long-term orthotic can actually cause atrophy of the muscles of the foot. It makes sense. If you're not using the muscles because the orthotic is helping you, muscles will get weaker. It's the same as when you're wearing a cast for a long period of time, the muscles get weaker. And so when people are wearing orthotics for periods of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, their muscles of their foot they're atrophied. So they can't keep up. And now they're afraid to take a step because it hurts. But we need to peel that back and say, well, why does it hurt? It hurts because if I was going to go pick up a 50-pound weight and I'm only strong enough to hold 5 pounds, it's going to hurt. It's the same thing when our feet are made out of the same structures.
Yeah. So from what you guys are doing as a perspective of the Gait Happens, and of course you're having to of course find ways to educate people who are maybe not into foot health. How are you guys building exposure and brand awareness as a global from a global perspective? I know you have your like courses and whatnot, but like what ways is Gait Happens trying to expose and trying to help people, bring awareness about the foot?
Yeah, it's such a good question. We started as an Instagram account, which is like kind of funny to think about. But that was where we started, was just posting this information and sharing our passion, right? Because as you can tell, I'm passionate, just like Dr. Conley is. And we shared our passion and our patient stories and the power that people can have. And it started to catch on. And so our Instagram is definitely a big driver for us of reaching having that global reach, but we're trying to get it out there on multiple fronts as well. So we have our YouTube channel, we have courses that we then teach those other practitioners. And so with our courses, most of them are across the United States, but we have taught multiple times in Canada, we've taught in London. So we're working on expanding the practitioners as well, because one of the things that we teach in those courses is that together we all help more people. So for every practitioner that I teach, everyone that they helps is another person that I've reached, right? And so that's kind of our goal there. Is it's not competition, it's all working together. There's so many people out there that need help. So creating kind of that network of health professionals is a big one. We also this year just launched a very exciting new program. It's called the Gait Happens Trainer Certification. And this is, we're really trying to reach more people. And I keep saying that, but it's been what we've been working towards for 8 years. And now we're kind of at a point where we're really starting to break into this. And so we're creating a certification where movement professionals can get certified to host Gait Happens certified workshops. And so they can bring this information to their communities so that they can then teach more people. And we can really start to get this expansion where it's not just us and our direct team that's teaching, but now we're creating a network of teachers who can teach more and more. So that's kind of how we're trying to get this global reach. The other things are things like podcasts. Podcasts are amazing. And what you do is so cool because you're presenting information. And it just keeps everybody's interest when you get to learn some really cool things and from different people. And so being on podcasts, Dr. Conley was actually on the Diary of a CEO podcast last year. She's got some big ones lined up this year as well. And she also published her book this year. So her book is called Walk, and it's all about walking and the power of walking and why walking is so important for our health, and that it really shouldn't be optional. It should be mandatory every day. And how to do that in today's society, which is also one of the things that we struggle with, even with our patients, is, okay, we want to get better, but we also have to pick up the kids at daycare, and we have to meal prep, and we have to do this, and we work all day and we're tired. That's the reality of today's society. And we know that both as practitioners, and in Courtney's book, she also addresses how to get more movement in today's society as
Yeah. I'm very intrigued about the training certificate. I think that's so cool. Because I know about the whole Gait Happens practitioner side, but so what would it entail for someone who is, let's say, interested in the training certificate? Like, what is it? What's going to happen? You kind of give me more details if you can.
Absolutely. So it's brand new. So it's still a baby program.
Sure.
So our goal is to eventually offer it online so that we can do more for the global community, because we can only be in so many places. But as of right now, it's in person only. It's a 1-day certification course. So you attend it in person. And basically what it looks like is there's kind of this curriculum of basic foot anatomy that's going to be relevant to what you're teaching at one of these workshops, right? So we have to know what it is and the science behind it before we can teach it. But then the rest of the certification is really centered around teaching you how to teach. And that's a really big piece of the puzzle that a lot of health pros don't get in their training, right? You have a lot of anatomy, you have a lot of movement, you have all these things, but understanding how to put those together in an effective way and teach them effectively to your community is a really critical piece when putting something like this together. So throughout the day, you basically learn 3 different workshops that you could then go teach, and then you practice, you get fundamentals of teaching, and then you go and practice during lab sections, practice teaching these workshops, and then get real-time feedback and things like that so that you can really hone in on your delivery. So it's equal parts content and teaching you how to teach and get in front of people and get those nerves out. And then there's a practical side of it where you do have to pass a test, because we are certifying that this is a Gait Happens certified workshop. and we're adding it to our website calendar saying, hey, if you want to go to a Gait Happens event, go here. And in order to put our name on it, we want to make sure that we're hitting a certain standard. So that kind of practical side of things is you have to be able to do the exercises that you're going to be teaching. So like things like toe yoga, you have to be able to do, but then you also have to demonstrate your teaching skills as well.
Okay, so kind of like on that, sorry, I'm not trying to bring them in, but like sort of like TFC, like you guys are having some sort of a similar thing where it's Gait Happens
Yeah.
brand. Well, yeah. And which is, I think that's awesome
Exactly.
because
And we love the Foot Collective. And that's, again, going back to that message of together we all help more people. It's just kind of two sides of the same coin. We take a little bit more clinical, more physio approach. They bring the fun. Like they're going to go play the games and like do the spins on their beam. And that's freaking awesome. But it's just two kind of different approaches, but still on the same mission together.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's, like I said, it's going to hit different, people from different backgrounds. Cause like I guess in the past workshops or like people who are coming to Gait Happens, are they typically in movement or like, PT chiropractors? What kind of background do they typically have that can start applying it right away?
Yeah. So as far as the movement pros, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so currently in most of our courses, it's physical therapists, physiotherapists, especially depending on the country we're talking about. That's the fun thing I've learned with all of this is it all depends on the country, what we call different professions. Like in Canada, we deal a lot with DOs, doctors of osteopathy is what we call them, and osteopaths is what they call them in Canada. Here it's doctor of osteopathy. And then chiropractors as well. Those would be kind of the big ones for the courses, but we also get a smattering of movement professionals. So lots of Pilates instructors because they love the foot as well. They understand the power of the foot. Lots of movement coaches, some strength coaches, some athletic trainers. So we kind of have like a smattering of other health and movement professionals, but kind of the core is more in that physical therapy, physiotherapy, chiro, osteopath kind of arena.
Wow. So would you say, I guess for what you guys are seeing also in the trends of, let's say, footwear, because I know I'm kind of switching gears, but like if you were talking about footwear, okay, today, because especially you're talking about barefoot shoes, would someone need to get into working on their foot function, mobility, strength before getting to barefoot shoes safely? Because there's a time and place. Like if you go cold turkey from wearing non-functional shoe to foot shaped shoes, how that could affect people's foot and whatnot. But what Gait Happens is doing is like teaching people the importance of the foot to strengthen it, mobilize it, and then you can get into the proper footwear. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it goes together. It doesn't necessarily have to happen chronologically, like work on this first, then go into footwear, as long as you're doing it in a way that's smart. And so a few tips for success with that. Kind of two different ways of approaching this. And I've used both with my patients. One is if they just want to start going into the more barefoot or minimalist shoe. So we're talking thin, right? You're more like thin, flexible, nothing to it. Your foot's got to do the work kind of shoe, right? So with those, your foot has to work hard. I'm okay with this transition if you're one of those people that you're not in severe pain, right? You could have some pain, but if you're not in severe pain where you can barely walk, or you're someone who walks around the house barefoot already, you're not the people who get out of bed and immediately put their shoes on, immediately have their orthotic on, they're in it all day long. Those are the people that I have to be a lot more careful with. But if you're already used to going barefoot at least part of your day, you can probably jump into the minimalist shoes and then slowly add time, right? So there's actually a step count that you can use to like this many steps to this many steps. It comes from the Sarah Ridge article, the Walking in Minimalist Shoes Can Strengthen Your Feet article. So they use an actual step count to increase the people in that article. And that's kind of that's what I use as my reference point there. The other approach is transitioning using transition shoes. And this
Yeah.
is where we kind of have a shoe spectrum. When we talk about an anatomical shoe, it's a shoe that's shaped like a foot, right? So it's widest at the toe box so that our foot can splay and function and do the things it needs to do. Now, in that anatomical shoe world, there's what we call functional and minimal. And so, and Dr. Conley goes into this in the book as well. So on the functional side, it hits those points of, hey, it's letting the foot do its job, but it could have more cushion underneath it, versus minimal, which is still going to be anatomical, but it's going to be not doing a lot of the work for you, not having a lot of the cushion. It's going to be more close to that barefoot. So what a lot of people will do, especially if they have that painful history, especially if they've had surgeries, anything that could be kind of that complicating factor, what we'll do is switch them from their current shoes to a functional shoe, something like Ultra, right?
Mhm.
You know, sometimes we'll go Lems, like the Primal Zen can be a good one where it's in between, but going to a shoe that has more cushion. I really like the Escalante because you're
Yeah.
going to get a wide toe box, but have some more cushion underneath you. And then once you get used to that, you can kind of step down that shoe spectrum all the way to minimalist. Or for some people, they don't get all the way to minimalist. And we need to meet them where they are
Okay.
and still keep them in that anatomical shape. I have patients. I mean, my dad is another great example. This is also why I got into feet, because all of my parents have foot things. My dad has
Uh-huh.
one foot that's completely fused. All of the bones, so there's supposed to be 26 bones in your foot. His entire midfoot is fused together from such severe arthritis. His foot cannot do the things we talked about. It will never be able to do this again because it's
Wow.
completely fused. He cannot wear minimalist footwear because his foot can't do those things. He needs a shoe that's going to help him. So we get him in a wide toe box shoe and we meet him where he's at. There's going to be cases like that. And that's why it's not so black and white of everyone should be doing this thing. We need to be realistic based on where people are in their journey and where they can get to based on where they are in their lifespan.
I like that approach. Yeah, because like I said, I getting to barefoot shoes. Like I'm the type to like I'm passionate about something. I'll appreciate and tell people about it. But I guess people are coming with different histories and different baggage that they're coming in with. So it's not like you can tell them, all right, barefoot shoes are gonna change everything. I mean, and that's why there's brands like Ultras and others that have that transitional for people so they can slowly get into it. And I should think more about that instead of just preaching minimal issues, because I know the
Yeah.
effects and how it's helped me, but people, that's another thing too, is like
It's
mhm.
really easy to get excited about it because minimalist shoes can do so much for so many people. But
Yeah.
being on the side of where I am, I don't get me wrong, I wear minimalist shoes 90% of the time. I put my Ultras
Mhm.
on when my feet are tired, when I'm going to Disneyland. I have my shoe spectrum and I dance along that line depending on what's
Mhm.
going on, right? But I live most of my life in minimalist shoes. But I also have patients where I see it in my clinic and they are not going to get to that point. They have a fused big toe that physically cannot bend. You cannot put someone who has a big toe that's literally fused here and put them in a shoe that does this. Their toe
Mhm.
doesn't do this anymore. There's metal stopping them. So there's a time and place, and we need to realize that, where most people, if we can get them to that side of the spectrum where they're in that more minimalist shoe, it can prevent a lot of stuff down the line. But there's also people who are going to be on this side of the spectrum, and that's okay too.
Sure. And then of course, like for me, is like changing people's perspective. Like it's all a whole mindset shift, right? For people to see like changing habits, because these are all habitual behaviors that people have embedded for 20, 30 years, however long. But I mean, for me, it took me 30 years to figure out like, oh, it's the footwear that's causing my issues, for a lot of my lower extremities. So um, I guess that's another thing too, is like when we're seeing clients daily, we need to of course help them think that this is a lifestyle change of the way that you see the foot and movement footwear. And there's so much that goes into this that that's why I love doing the podcast, because it helps people like yourself, people from different perspectives, not only me. Like you're the
Yeah.
expert in doing what you're doing, but I'm just trying to get this out because I know how impactful it is for anyone and everyone. So Yeah, that's why I want to bring this in and bring you into the podcast. To wrap up, I want to have people know how can they enroll into the program to become a Gait Happens practitioner, and ways that they can, of course, interact, find more about upcoming courses, schedules, and whatnot. Where can they find you guys at?
Yeah, great question. So gaithappens.com is the easiest place to find us. And remember, that's GAIT happens.com, not gate the kind that you open and close. And the other place to look for information is also our Instagram and our YouTube. We have literally thousands of free videos out there. So if you're looking to just learn a little bit more and see what you can find, there's tons of resources there. And then we do have programs and courses on the website. It's all split out. So it says, for individuals, for health pros. So hopefully it's pretty clear to see kind of what you're looking for. But yeah, we re-released, actually totally revamped our Fit Feet program this year. And it's one of the most exciting things that's happened this year so far, because it's the first time we've released a program in multiple languages. So it's actually available in English, Spanish, French, and Japanese. And it's like a 12-week follow along. You play the video and you do the exercises with Courtney and myself. And it's pretty cool.
It's awesome. Such a cool thing when you can do that in multiple languages. So awesome. I love the conversation. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Barefoot Expo. So hopefully we'll get to chat more then. But thank you, Jen, for hopping onto the podcast. Appreciate you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to everybody listening. I hope that you guys took something away that will help you move better from the ground up.
Thank you.